scholars, welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be talking about Dr. Stone. This manga I knew absolutely nothing about. Like I didn't know the premise, I didn't know any of the characters' names, I didn't know anything about the plot. I have seen two pictures of characters from Dr. Stone, and it was Sinku and Sukasa on completely different times. I've seen their pictures before. I thought Sinku's name was Dr. Stone. That's who I thought he was going into this. That's how little I knew about this series. And I thought, because I'd only seen those two pictures, I'd only seen those two characters with the markings on their face, I thought Sinku and Sukasa were like brothers. I was very wrong. So the little bit of preconception that I had about this manga, which was already practically nothing, was just blown out of the water. It's been great. I have not been so consistently wrong about a plot or a character as I have walking into Dr. Stone. Like, usually I've been able to get a pretty good grasp on characters, and I'm like, okay, so this is what the plot's going to be doing moving forward. This manga has fooled me a couple times now. I've started to catch on to the formula that Dr. Stone kind of operates in regarding like how the plot is moving and how these characters work within this world. So I've caught on a little bit now, but I didn't at first. And I have never been so wrong about a character. Just first impression, presumption about a character. I've never been so wrong in my life. Because let me tell you, whenever Sukasa entered the scene after he beat up all those lions, I just looked and I was like, I have found my new favorite character of the series. Like, he's gonna be a great asset. Like, this guy is awesome. He's got some humor to him. He makes these funny faces. He's smart and he's super strong. I'm gonna love his character. He's gonna be like my favorite character. And then he ends up being the villain. He ends up being the villain. And I was just, as soon as Senku started talking about like, oh, this guy might be bad news, and they started having conflicting ideologies, I was like, oh crap. Oh crap. I was on this guy's side like from the get-go. Oh no. And it went downhill from there. It really did. I still think Sukasa is a great character. Don't get me wrong. I still think he is a fantastic character. But I temporarily have to take away that badge of favorite character of the series due to the fact that he's a mass murderer. So that badge has to be rescinded and saved for somebody else. Which might end up going to Senku. I'm not sure. I've hesitated saying anything about a character ever since Sucasa's betrayal, because that was in like the first like 5 chapters of Dr. Stone, and yeah, it didn't work out for me. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna wait a while before I decide who my next favorite character is, because it seems like Senku would be like a good choice because he's the main protagonist and he's on the side of the people, but I'm still waiting. But that aside from how this manga fooled me from the start, and it took me a while to kind of get used to how this world works, how this plot was working, and the characters of this world, because I wasn't immediately sold on chapter 1, so chapters 2 and 3 really opened up the world to me, and it really drew me into the plot and into the characters, and that's when I started really being like, okay, like this is going somewhere, this is going somewhere good. And then after the whole Sukasa incident, it just went from 0 to 100 and just took off flying. It just went out the door with how fast it was going. The plot picked up like crazy after their big confrontation. I'm only going to be covering I can't remember which chapter it ends on. I'll go back and I'll put it up here for y'all to show you which chapter I'm ending at. But basically, it's when Senku and Taiju and Yuzuriha end up separating from each other. Like that, their separation to go on their different missions, that's where I'm ending this review. I've read further, but I haven't quite gotten to a good stopping point further on down the line. But I am enjoying this series. I am enjoying it a lot more than I thought I was. I thought I was going to. The humor in this is hitting me really hard. It's good. It's good humor. It's making me laugh. The expressions and how the mangaka draws the characters makes me laugh at times because of the expressions on their face or how they're reacting to certain situations. The humor, it's good humor. It's landing very well for me, and I'm really enjoying it. The plot is good. This idea of the world, every human and sparrow being stoned, everything being stoned, everybody being placed in stones, and it takes over 3,700 years for someone to get out of that stone, or so it would seem. And so it's kind of Senku and Taiju's mission to restart civilization and to save everyone, to unpetrify everybody pretty much, and to restart civilization from the ground up. It's a very interesting plot line, one I haven't really seen before, which is really cool. I like the uniqueness of it, and I love how Senku is just a lab rat. He's so smart, and just everything is science to him. Every aspect of the world is just science to him. The way he counted every second from the moment he was stoned so he wouldn't lose consciousness. I mean, the guy's a nut. Like, he's crazy, but like in a good crazy. He's smart crazy, but he's crazy. I love it because I'm starting to really like Senku. I'm trying to decide if I want to do a little bit of character analysis now or save that towards the end of the video. I'm gonna do it now. I'm really starting to enjoy Senku's character. He is multifaceted and cares a lot more than he likes to pretend and like he acts, because there are moments where he shows genuine emotion on his face, like he can't hide it, but then it's like immediately as that show he masks it just like that and either pretends to do something for his own benefit and has this like evil smile on his face, like the mad scientist smile, or he just pretends like he's very nonchalant and brushes it off, but he cares so much. I mean, there's a couple big examples of this, but the two I want to focus on is one, his conversation with Sukasa, because that's going to be one of the main focuses of this video, is just talking about him and Sukasa. But his conversation with Sukasa before Sukasa tries to break his neck, when they're talking about their different ideologies, and Senku truly cares to bring back every single person, whether they were good or bad. He wants to bring everyone back. He wants to revive everyone. And he says, I would find, or in one of the flashbacks, and they were talking about like, oh, would you rather save this person or this type of person? And Senku says, I'd find a way to save all of us. That just says so much about him. But then the way he tries to act like he doesn't care about anybody or tries to get too close to them. And then it just shows in his conversation with Sukasa, and how Sukasa is saying, if we knew each other 3,700 years ago, I think you would have been my first friend. And that look on Senku's face, because he feels the same way, and he like is even imagining, like he's imagining Sukasa being in that inner circle with Taiju and Yuzuriha, and he's he just thinks that it would have been so much fun to have Sukasa be part of that group, and he even pictures part of it, and then he just tries to turn it off. He tries to mask it and cover it, even though he feels it, and even though Sukasa has seen the genuine emotion on his face and is showing that himself, Senku still tries to cover it up. And it's just very interesting to have a main character who is so attached but tries to be unattached. We see it again during Sinku's flashback when he has first woken up and he's going, you know, through all the primitive stages of talking with the monkeys and acquiring all these different things, getting clothes and trying to figure things out and figure out what's happened, but he's by himself, and eventually that loneliness is starting to get to him. He says it's just because, you know, he's trying to do everything by himself and he just needs manpower. But I think it's more than that. He is genuinely feeling that sense of loneliness. I believe, at least. I could be very wrong again, but I don't think I am. He genuinely feels lonely, and who does he go to seek out? His friend. He goes immediately to find Taiju. And when he does, that look of emotion on his face, that relief and joy and happiness upon seeing his friend still in one piece after all these years, but then he immediately tries to cover it up and be like, ah, yes, you'll be my first experiment, ha ha ha. Like, Senku, my boy, I know you have emotions, I know you have feelings, but his brain is so geared scientifically that it's almost like he feels like emotions aren't relatable in a scientific sense, so he tries to mask that up, because he always says that he won't do things that have no reason, or he won't do anything that's impractical. And maybe he feels like emotions are this impractical part of life, because later on, I don't believe it's in this section of chapters, but the idea of love being illogical or impractical does come up. And I wonder if that's part of why he tries to hide his emotions so frequently, even though it's obvious he feels them and he feels things very deeply, but then he's just like, oh, nope, I'm a scientist, I can't feel these things. I don't know if that's exactly it, but that's kind of my initial impressions of it. I'm really liking Sinku as a character. I really do enjoy his goofiness, his very, very good intelligence, and the way he is a problem solver and just goes like, okay, we'll take this one step at a time. I really like his character. Taiju is another character that I love him. He's just golden retriever. He's got that golden retriever energy. No thoughts, literally no thoughts in his brain, but he is a sweetheart and we love him regardless. He does have more thoughts than Senku gives him credit for, I think, because him and Yuzuriha are able to figure out, you know, what happened to Senku after Sukasa hit him, so that they're able to revive him in this sense. So they are able to figure things out because of the hints that Senku left him. So there is a brain up there and it does get used, but in comparison to Senku, it doesn't get used as much. Taiju is a great character though. He's very protective, very loving, and very caring towards his friends. And I really, really enjoy that. One of his best moments, I think, because it's played off for laughs, but I think it's a really good tell about what type of person and the type of character he is when he's defending Yuzuriha from Sukasa, and he says, attack me, you know, hit me as much as you want to satisfy, like, you satisfy whatever you need to satisfy, hit me as much as it takes to satisfy you. Just don't touch her. Don't hurt her. Don't hurt anybody else. Take it all out on me. And he doesn't fight back. Part of his moral code is that he doesn't throw a punch. He can take the hit, but he won't hit back. It's so interesting. I love it. I love this type of characterization. He's great. I don't have as much of a read on Yuzuriha right now. I mean, she's a great side character, a great asset to work with both Senku and Taiju, and She is Taiju's love interest, and they kind of have a thing going. It's kind of established, but she is able to help in a different way than Taiju is, so she's a very good asset to their team. I might need more on her character before I decide anything, though. So then we'll get to Sukasa. I mean, he's a very interesting, intriguing character. He is very smart, and I think that's something Sinku caught on to very early on, is that he wasn't just the muscle of the group that could just fight and tear his way through anything. He was smart. And Sukasa has this kind of charisma about him that could easily lead to people falling under his command, which is what ends up tipping Sinku off of, we might have made a mistake reviving him right now. Sukasa has genuine respect for Sinku and admires Sinku both for his strategic sense and just how intelligent he is. I think Sukasa really does respect and admire Sinku for all that he's done and how much he's figured out. But Sukasa also has a plan of his own. He also has a mind of his own. He's not just going to follow all of Senku's plans just because. And that starts to lead into a rift. I'm backtracking for a second. One of the reasons I figured out how intelligent Sukasa is because they start talking about this magic fluid that is reviving everybody. They don't tell him what it is, but he's able to go to that cave, find it, and be like, ah, this is nitric acid. That's what it is. Like, he knows it. He knows what it is and is able to figure it out. And I think that leads into this idea of the conflicting ideologies that Sinku and Sukasa have and their conflicting stance, because they both have the capacity to be leaders. Sinku has the capacity to be a leader in a more, I guess, structural based sense of he has a plan, he has methods, he has the motive and the reasoning to start building a society and inspire people to follow him. Sukasa, on the other hand, has the charisma and the ideal to lead people under him. While he doesn't have the scientific prowess, I guess, as Sinku does, he does have a lot of things playing into his favor, but the main conflict comes from Sukasa has seen injustices in the world. He tells the story about wanting to make a seashell necklace for his ailing sister, and I'm pretty sure it's him. He says it's the story of a boy who wanted to do this. Pretty sure he's referring to himself there. He wanted to make a seashell necklace for his ailing sister, but was beaten and punished for wanting to do that because his father thought it was immoral that he was stealing the seashells and he couldn't do anything like that. So it brings up a very interesting, valid, ethical question of, do you revive everyone? In this plan of yours, Sinku, do you revive everyone, even the black-hearted adults who are ruthless, who would start being greedy or start wanting to take things from others, who would start hurting other people? Are those types of people included in your plan to revive everyone? Senku doesn't hesitate. He's just like, yes, I'm saving everyone. And that doesn't sit right with Sukasa. It's very interesting, these conflicting ideologies, because Senku, morally, he wants to do the right thing to revive everyone, to give everyone another chance to live life. Sukasa, on the other hand, is almost thinking in a more pragmatic sense of, well, there were bad people on this earth 3,700 years ago, and if you revive everyone, those bad people are still going to exist, but in a stone age where there's less technologically advanced, circumstances, and that might end up making them worse. It's an interesting conflict because you can see both sides. You can see where they're coming from on both sides of the spectrum, where on one hand it's like, yes, like Sinku should save everyone, like go for it, like save everyone, bring everyone back. But then when Sukasa brings up his point, you're like, huh, do you really want these people back? alive on this earth. That's a good point. But then Sukasa starts taking it a little too far when he's like, oh well, we'll get rid of all the adults, every single adult, and just go with the children. Sukasa read Lord of the Flies. It didn't work. Oh my gosh, this is kind of like Lord of the Flies. They're all children abandoned on an island with no adult supervision, and the two factions are forming. Well, I've seen how this ends. So that the way he's wanting to just get rid of everyone to just focus on children, minds that he can basically mold, and to create this perfect utopian society of a Stone Age. And he doesn't even leave room for discussion. He doesn't seem open to talking about, his reasonings or if it's right or wrong. He's not open to any of that. He just starts acting on these thoughts because he's like, hey, this is a perfect clean slate. Let's make it a true clean slate by only having kids here and bringing them up from there. And then he just goes around and starts smashing all of these different stone statues, essentially killing dozens of people. And he doesn't care. He's like, I'm starting over. I'm just going to start killing all these people. We're going to have a blank slate. That's what we're doing here. And Sinku, on the other hand, is thinking in a very idealistic sense of wanting to give everyone like this second chance. He wants to bring everyone back because he thinks everyone deserves to be brought back. He wants to save everyone, and he believes that science is the way to do that. He believes he has the capabilities to do this because of what he knows, because of what he remembers, and he wants to do it. He wants to save everyone just because it's the right thing to do. What I really like about this setup is because of these conflicting ideologies, they're not necessarily enemies, but because neither of them will see eye to eye and neither of them will compromise on what they're wanting, it forces them to be enemies. It forces them to be opposed to one another, which is why that conversation with Sukasa and Sinku, when he's like, if we would have known each other back before this all happened, we would have been friends, because Sinku and Sukasa would have met 3,700 years ago. Sukasa wouldn't be having these thoughts because it wouldn't be the Stone Age and there would still be a lot of people around. He wouldn't be having these thoughts. Sinku has always thought about how to save everyone, how to save all of us. And so that it creates a very interesting dynamic because Sinku has always been this way and it seems like he always will be this way, but Sukasa has been very influenced by the environment and the circumstances he's been in and has used that to kind of shape these ethics of his. It's a very cool dynamic to see, and it's a very good foil. Like, they're very good foils for one another. And I know we haven't seen the last of Sukasa. I know we haven't. We had that whole incident where after they split up from Sukasa and they're wanting to get to like the hot springs with the sulfur and everything because they want to make gunpowder to blow Sukasa up or to kill him, to subdue him in some sense, because they're like, we can't physically stand up to him. Like, they physically know they don't stand a chance. I think that's another good, like, fun running gag, is that Sinku is just the full brain power. He has no physical stamina. It's highlighted several times that he's very weak physically, and I think that's fun. I think that's a great character trait for Sinku because, you know, he's got the brain power, but he doesn't have the physical power, and you have Sukasa, who has all of the physical power, but some of the brain power, so he's really trying to fight against time before Sukasa figures everything out because he knows he has the ability to, and that's why he has Taiju by his side and Yuzuriha, because they provide all the support he needs. Really love it. I love it. It's great. It's fantastic. And they make the gunpowder. We get Sinku's fake out death, his fake out death, where Sukasa, like, I guess tries to snap his neck, but because Sinku still had a piece of stone embedded in the back of his skull, It didn't snap his neck because I guess that piece of stone was like holding it in place, and Yuzuriha and Taiju were able to figure that out and kind of help him. You know, they take the thingy off with the nitric acid and they help him get free and they bring him back essentially. And that's when we get that Sinku flashback, and I really, really like that flashback. We've had a few in the first few chapters. We have a few talking about like how he was so ingrained in knowledge, how he always wanted to be learning more, how he got into science and everything, and how devoted he was to learning all of that. And in this one, it's, you know, he goes through the stages of, okay, I've been revived, what's our situation, how do I make this work, okay, I'm gonna start civilization, I'm gonna, you know, make small steps, scientific steps, and do all this thing. And then eventually he's like, I need help. And he goes to find Taiju. He goes to find his friend, brings his friend back, and they get to start from there together. And I just, I love it. I love it. That flashback was so good. And then Senku's just like, aha, just as I planned. Sukasa thinks I'm dead. This is the perfect time for me to go undercover because there are other civilizations living out there. Because when they sent up a smoke signal, they saw other smoke signals coming from the forest aside from Sukasa, which means there are other humans who have been depetrified that are living out there. And Senku sees this as an opportunity. He's like, okay, this is perfect. Sukasa believes I'm dead. I can go undercover and go to these other civilizations to recruit them to our cause before he gets to them. And because he's wanting to build a kingdom of science. Instead of the kingdom Sukasa wants, he wants to make sure he gets these people on his side. But in order to do this, he has to do it alone. And he tasks Yuzuriha and Taiju to infiltrate Sukasa's kingdom with a plan that we don't get to know, of course. Loving that. Of course we don't get to know. They get to go undercover and infiltrate into Sukasa's kingdom for something, while Senku has to go his separate way to go talk to these other people. Senku is not going to give up on the idea of advancing civilization, which was another thing that him and Sukasa had an argument, or not argument, but had a discussion about, because Sukasa was like, if you just promise me that you're not going to do this, I don't have to attack you, I don't have to kill you, I can let you live. And Senku's like, yeah, I can't do that. And Sukasa's like, I know. Because Senku is very sacrificial, he's very caring, because he sacrifices himself in place of Yuzuriha, because yes, he did have that plan in place, but he still had to have the courage and the guts to go through with it, and he was willing to give up the recipe, in a sense, for the nitric acid to revive people in order to save Yuzuriha. I love it so much. But yes, Senku can't give up on civilization. He can't give up on taking people back to what they were, taking people back to what could have been. Because, I mean, essentially, if he doesn't do it, then someone else will. Like, civilization will always have a way to evolve. Civilization will always find a way to progress forward. Whether that is a negative or a positive, they will always find a way to progress forward. So Senku, in his mind, he's like, I'm the right person to do it, because he does have the right ideal to do it. Whether or not it happens, because humans will be humans, whether or not it happens is left to be seen, but he has at least the right heart and the right mind for it, and that's why he can't let it go. So Senku leaves to go to these other civilizations to see if he can recruit them for his kingdom of science, and he parts ways with Taiju and Yuzuriha, and their little goodbye where Taiju is holding his fist in the air, and then Senku responds by holding up that little flag. That was very heartwarming. I loved it so much. But that's where I'm cutting it off. That's where I'm cutting off this review. There's a lot here. There's a lot to talk about Dr. Stone. So I don't know how many chapters I'm gonna do each review, but I'm really enjoying it. It's very detailed. I am gonna have to brush up on my scientific facts because I'm not as scientifically inclined as Sinku is. I'll just leave it at that. So I might have to brush up on some of my science, or I'll just leave it to Sinku and I'll just follow along to his antics and just believe what he says is true. I don't know. But this is gonna be a fun manga. I'm really enjoying myself. I really like the characters, and even though Sukasa did betray me, I still quite enjoy his character. He's still a good character. But I'm really looking forward to seeing where this manga is gonna go, how the plot is going to develop, how these civilizations are going to be developed, and seeing how the conflicts continue to arise, because I know I know they're gonna clash again, and they're probably gonna clash again soon, and I'm really curious to see how it happens. But that's all for this video. Thank you all so much for watching. If you want to see any of my videos early, be sure to go check out my Patreon. I'll post all my videos on there before they hit YouTube. I've done videos on One Piece. I'm starting Spy Family, which I am also enjoying very much. And I have done other analysis of other anime and manga, so if you want to go check them out, be sure to check out my channel. Other than that, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you next time, scholars. Bye!